October the 2nd, 2017 at 4:10 in council chambers. So there is no introduction of late items. So we need to have a motion, please, to accept the special open meeting agenda. Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Youngberg, all in favor? Thank you. And business. So do we need to go through the reading of the report again?
No, I think there's just a reference that the report was provided previously in the public hearing and just explore the options.
Do I ask Ms. Wong to say that, or do I do it?
We've got it in front of us.
No, the report's in front of you, so it's fine.
All right.
It's the same report as was presented.
Right, the same report that was just presented at the public meeting.
Yeah.
And so now we need to look at the options. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so
absolutely. I believe Councillor
go ahead.
Rhodes had his hand up first, and then we'll let everybody have a turn. Okay, Councillor Rhodes, did you?
Should I go through the options?
Sure. Read the options first. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So the options before council include option number 1. Council convenes into a special open meeting following the public hearing and gives third reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.104 2017. Option number 2, council defers giving third reading to the bylaw until a later date. Option number 3, council requests further revisions to the bylaw before proceeding further. And option number 4, council does not take any further action and the bylaw will be abandoned. And staff's recommendation is option number 1, depending upon the input received at the public hearing.
How did you feel about the input? You were okay with it?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Rhodes, you're first.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I'm quite interested in expediting this whole thing and kind of getting behind this, and I'm wondering about the pitfalls of doing a third and final reading at this meeting. Yeah.
I have spoken with the Ministry of Transportation, and just based on even through the Local Government Act, it is required that adoption be given after any approvals are necessary from the ministry. So in this case, Ministry of Transportation final approval is required, and so they would have to give it after third reading and before final adoption by council. And in either case, they cannot give any prior, like, final adoption of a bylaw before a public hearing. And in this case, we have already combined the public hearing and the special open meeting for considering third meeting on the same day. So the ministry, they cannot, give prior approval
I was afraid
before before the public hearing.
Yeah.
So what would happen if we gave final approval based on a third reading plus adoption today based on, and you can't?
They cannot give final approval after adoption.
Come back at the middle of the month.
Okay.
The option would be to have a special open meeting once we receive
The letter from
MOTI.
And did you not tell us that it was this is not a complicated issue and it should be very fast?
It should be, because they've already given preliminary approval, but in terms of actually signing off on the bylaw, they do have to follow with the procedures that way.
Got you. Thank you. Councillor Campbell.
I'd like to move that we give third reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.104.2017, and also that I guess that we commit to whatever special meeting or special open meeting would be necessary to expedite this as soon as possible once we have ministry approval.
Can we do those two things at once?
I would just
do the one.
Just do the one, and then basically what we're looking for is a third reading on the bylaw. Okay. And any presumption of another reading and approval is being presumptuous on a zoning amendment.
All right, so I'll move that we give third reading.
Third reading, and Councillor King has seconded it. Okay, Councillor, did you, either one of you want to speak first? No. Okay, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you again. So the Local Government Act, when I read that over, I don't see that in there. So am I right in assuming that they're intervening? I'm not trying to make things difficult or anything. I'm just trying to understand the process. If you recall, every time we do this, I'll ask the same question about third and final reading, but I'm always troubled with ministries when they step in the process of kind of holding this whole process up, I would think, in my opinion. So do we have any reference to where they can do that? I mean, the Local Government Act is pretty clear and concise.
There's a reference to any zoning amendment within 800 meters of a
That would be through the Transportation Act. So also in the Transportation Act, it does refer to any bylaws requiring the ministry's approval, that they have to give approval prior to adoption by council. So essentially at third reading, it is essentially council sort of, it's essentially the final reading right before adoption, right? So typically the ministry would be giving final approval after they know that, the council is pretty much okay with the bylaw, and so that's why they give it right before adoption. We normally refer, applications to applicable agencies after first and second readings. And so at this point, the ministry, they would be giving preliminary approval for them to actually sign off on the bylaw, actually on the bylaw page, and it's usually timed so that it is between third reading and final adoption.
Does that apply to all ministries or just the MOTI?
Well, in the case of zoning bylaw amendments, if there is provincial approval required, it normally is related to the Ministry of Transportation. So that's why we normally see, if there are approvals required, it's typically from MOTI for zoning bylaw amendments.
So they could step in and either stonewall or prolong this for indefinitely based on that. That's what my objection is more than anything.
Yeah, well, in this case,
I know they won't.
Because they gave preliminaries.
I understand that they don't, but they could.
They do have to look at, each application, on its own.
I do remember after the last meeting when this was brought up that the reason that we put off the next meeting until today was because most of us were away last week.
Yes.
Is there any chance that that after third reading that the Ministry of Transportation could speed this up and we could call another meeting and go through the adoption? Is that a possibility? I know you said you talked to them, so
if council wishes to schedule another special open meeting, that could be a possibility. Right after they give essentially the final sign off on the bylaw.
That's what I was trying to
suggest. Otherwise,
I agree, and I think that it might be a good idea, considering that we'd like to speed this whole procedure up for the applicant, that I think that probably we could arrange to have another meeting if that was available. And I'm just wondering if you'd be able to talk to the Ministry of Transportation and say, council is ready to hold another, we can't, or we can.
I think you're getting ahead of yourself.
That's right.
It'd be Dylan maybe sending in the paperwork within the next couple of days. Hopefully he's signing off for a couple of days. Once he gets that back, then we could suggest having a meeting, but we can't kind of do it before.
But she's already talked to them, and you did talk to them on the phone, and I'm wondering if they already have it, and you say we've got...
Well, they gave preliminary approval, right? So for them to consider final approval, we do have to submit the bylaw to them.
Okay.
With the third reading.
With the third reading for
Fair
them
enough.
to sign off.
I just want, my only concern is, could we speed it up in any way? I totally understand that you have to do it correctly, for sure. So we have moved and seconded that we have third reading, and we haven't voted on it yet, though, have we? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And anything that you can do to speed that up, we'd appreciate. Okay, is there anything else that we need to do? No other business here? Mrs. Hilson, we're done, so we can close the meeting? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much. Councillor King, Councillor Youngberg, all in favor. Thank you, Dillis.
Thank you.